quick facts on the history of the New York City Police Department. Established in 1845, the NYPD is the largest municipal force in the United States. In fact, it is the second largest overall law enforcement agency behind the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. As of 2011, the NYPD has slightly over 36,000 officers. NYPD headquarters is located at One Police Plaza in Lower Manhattan. Corruption has occurred throughout the department's history. 3 prominent white-collar cases will be the focus of this document.
The Buddy's Boys case involved police corruption in the form of robbery, burglary, and drug dealing among officers in the Brooklyn 77th Bedford Stuyvesant precinct, often referred to as the Alamo. The compromised officers were a result of the force transferring problem officers to the precinct. The problems began with officers accepting free sandwiches and drinking on duty, moved to stealing evidence from crime scenes, and from there escalated to robbing drug dealers and officers selling drugs themselves. Officer Henry Winter and Anthony Magno were lucky in that they were the first caught, allowing them to escape harsh punishment by becoming one of the few officers in NYPD history to rat out almost their entire precinct. And boy did they ever. The two sang like canaries. Big legal players like Charles J. Hines, the state special prosecutor in the case, know that when police face arrest, it is every man for himself. Then, while wearing wires, they continue to commit crimes with their cop buddies, secretly documenting every detail. The two complying was a major tool in ultimately indicting and convicting a large portion of the precinct. The trial resulted in the conviction of 13 officers. Once the scandal was exposed, one of the disgraced officers committed suicide in a motel room. One of the officers was later quoted saying, "I did it for the glory. It was a way of getting back at the people you couldn't hurt. No one becomes a cop to steal." In the early 90s, a group of 30 road cops in the Harlem's 30th District, who referred to themselves as Nannery Raiders, after their Sergeant Kevin P. Nannery was accused and ultimately convicted. The group is charged with faking police radio and 911 calls to cover up illegal raids on drug-dealing apartments, where they seized drugs and stole large amounts of cash. The Mullen Commission, which investigates allegations of corruption, found evidence of supervising officers often looking the other way. The street cops ran wild. In one instance, Nannery and 2 of his raiders stopped a man in an apartment building, took his keys, and then ransacked his apartment. They stole several $1,000s in drugs and cash, and then let the dealer go. The sergeant's case ended in April 17, 1997, with Sergeant Nannery, who faced up to 4 years in jail, walked out of the courtroom, receiving a sentence of 1 year of home confinement. He stated to the judge, "I wanted to be so much of the guys. I lost sight of myself." Other members of Nannery Raiders were sentenced to prison, probation, or community service, depending on each other's contributions to the case. When all was said and done, the 33 officers tried in the third Dirty 30 scandal. After a 2-year investigation by Internal Affairs that included a widespread wiretapping, Bronx DA Robert Johnson pressed charges against 17 NYPD officers in late September. 10 officers, all members of the PBA union, were charged with grand larceny and tampering with police records for fixing tickets. The 7 others were charged with various crimes including perjury, bribery, and official misconduct. The cops were accused of making traffic tickets of family and friends disappearing, some of which included city lawmakers and New York Yankees executive. Some officers not indicted disciplined by the department by having their pay and vacation days taken away. 3 officers, Joe Anthony, Mike Hernandez, and Brian McGugan, all full-time union officers, were stripped of their privileges.
16 NYPD officers in court connected to a massive ticket-fixing scandal. And just a short while ago, the police commissioner talked about the arrests and what it means for the NYPD. Eyewitness News reporter Sarah Wallace live outside the Bronx courthouse with details. Sarah?
Well, Diana, certainly the police commissioner is not happy to have any of his officers arrested, but to give credit where credit is due, this was an internal affairs probe in cooperation with the Bronx DA's office. They listened to 10,000 phone calls during this 3-year investigation. Hundreds of angry and very vocal police officers converged on the Bronx criminal courthouse today in a show of support for more than a dozen alleged dirty cops. The officers, most who turned themselves in overnight, are accused of conspiring with PBA union delegates and trustees to fix tickets for family members and friends. They received a hero's welcome from other cheering cops who tried to block cameras in the courthouse hallway.
Go back, you gotta go back. Back.
Outside, the PBA president defended the practice as a professional courtesy.
A courtesy has now turned into a crime, and that's wrong. Something that is institutional in the NYPD and accepted has now landed on the shoulders of New York City police officers.
The investigation began 3 years ago with a tip about an allegedly dirty cop from the 40th Precinct, Jose Ramos, who had ties to a known drug dealer. Ramos was later heard on wiretaps discussing the ticket-fixing scheme with other officers.
We feel that this is not minimal conduct. This is felony conduct. It is criminal conduct.
Police officers have had and continue to have latitude and discretion in issuing summonses. But that discretion does not extend and was never intended to extend to the destruction or altering of official records.
Ramos was ordered held on $500,000 cash bail. Bail for an internal affairs lieutenant, Janara Everleth Cobb, accused of leaking information about the investigation to PBA delegates, was set at $20,000, posted by the union. The other officers were released on their own recognizance. Now, tonight at 6 o'clock, we're going to take a closer look at the man, the officer who sparked this investigation, Jose Ramos. One of the prosecutors said of him today in court, he sold his shield, he violated his oath. That's tonight at 6. Live from the Bronx Criminal Court, Sarah Wallace, Channel 7 Eyewitness.
Trial has yet to begin, but the defense lawyers plan to attach the validity of the wiretaps that make up most of the DA's case. If the 17 indicted officers are convicted, it will go down as one of the worst scandals in the department's history.